Being good at anything takes lots of practice and commitment. Deciding you want to play the piano or guitar or produce music in general can take years of patience, practice, and dedication to the craft. Getting good at something, or even being competent, takes a lot longer, and it's something that I truly have been studying and looking much deeper into over the past 3 years. Not for the sake of improving at music or an aforementioned skill, but to improve at video games. More specifically, fighting games. Fighting games are one of the most competitive genres of games out there. One-on-one, head-to-head combat, where if you lose, you can't blame your teammate or someone else. It's just you and the poor decisions you made throughout the fight that led you to that very moment. You constantly pressed buttons on block and got punished for it? That's on you. You kept fumbling your execution on a combo, causing you to get comboed into oblivion? That's on you. You decided you wanted to learn all 1 million moves inside of Tekken 7? That's on you. Each facet of a fighting game on their own is a concept that can take quite some time to not only learn, but improve upon. But unlike most games where the bare minimum for entry is lower and the skill ceiling is fairly high, this genre has it almost the other way around at points, and depending on the game can make things much easier or more tedious in the long run. I heard stories of the dreaded one-frame links in Street Fighter 4 and even witnessed some top-level play with the games I had my sights on. It was scary for sure, but I saw cool shit happen on screen. And when I see cool shit happen in a game, 9 times out of 10, I want to do that. Even with the learning curve, heavy commitment I would undertake with the genre, in dealing with the mental hurdles that these games can put in front of you, around 3 years ago, I decided to finally dive into the world of fighting games. My main takeaway? These games are fucking hard, but very fun. Deciding to learn a new skill can be an exciting time. Investing time into something you love and are deeply interested in, regardless of the bar for entry, is such a blissful but albeit overwhelming experience. Outside of fighting games, I decided to improve my skills in other games such as rhythm games. Getting better at games like Guitar Hero, Step Mania, DJ Max Respect, all felt like progress was slowly being made. I could show off to friends and blow their minds at something cool. Even when learning something like music production, it felt the exact same way as learning a rhythm game, and still does when I learn to make a new synth or mix a song as perfect as my ears will actually view it. That makes no sense. But it takes time, and a lot of these skills have been developing for me for years, and most of it was just because I thought it was fun creating and getting better at hitting buttons at a rhythmic pace with my funny plastic guitar. I was younger and much more open to failing and not allowing that to deter me in my unbeknownst path of self-improvement with those skills. But learning something new as a 20-or-something for me feels stressful. I tend to stick to the niches I knew and clinging on to the skills I developed when I was a kid and a teenager, and don't exactly strive to get good or even great at something else. It's a commitment my brain just wasn't ready for until a certain game existed and popped it right into my lap. Skullgirls. This game is something that I have had on my Xbox 360 since 2012 or 2013, and while I knew what a fighting game was, I never really cared about getting good and just liked hitting every button on the controller and seeing cute girls beating the living hell out of people. It was simple fun, but weirdly stuck with me. I only played the game once in a while, but always remember watching others play fighting games as I got older. From the early Skullgirls tourneys, iconic Evo moments, to Smash Bros. Melee and 4 tournaments, the genre really got me hyped up and excited when someone else can do something amazing.
Let's give a big hand for Big Band.
You win.
Don't that just beat all?
Now, fight a new river.
The problem was at this time I only cared about music and improving in that skill set, so while I would happily play a round or two of Skullgirls every year or so, I didn't take anything too seriously or had much fun when I went against someone who could, actually play the game. So the genre lay dormant outside of Smash Bros. With my friends, and I accepted the continued striving for improvement subconsciously elsewhere in my music production and rhythm game skill set. Deciding I wanted to learn a fighting game didn't happen until the virus happened. The thing that put everyone in lockdown for over a year and left us all with crippling reliance on Animal Crossing and YouTube? No? Just me? Around 2020, I decided to start getting a bit fighting game curious, so to speak, and for the first time in a while decided to look into top-level play in the genre that wasn't Smash Bros. No words outside of pure awe and amazement could describe what I was watching. Seeing the iconic comebacks, the most recent grand finals from the prior EVO, and seeing games I never even knew existed all made me giddy and excited to do whatever it took to do whatever the top players were doing. I decided to pick a game which at this time was BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. It had characters from Persona in it, and as someone who casually enjoyed the arena spin-offs, I was curious how the game would play. I bought it on a sale the year before on a whim, looked into even an ounce of the gameplay and combos, and felt severely overwhelmed. This was about where I ended up with these games. I kinda just dropped them after I only dipped my toes in the water, but realistically, the way to improve starts with my mental state, which was definitely the first hurdle and still is a hurdle I'm dealing with now. It's something I was not able to deal with in a competitive environment.
Mental, physical, Justin.
Getting discouraged about any skill is something that unfortunately will just happen. You'll make mistakes, you'll fall down, you'll scrape your knees, but it's about perspective and the right support system in some cases to improve at something. When riding a bike, you fall and either get right back up or take a bit before you're back to learning again. Fighting games are like this, and the amount of time I stopped learning something because the going got too much to handle at that very moment is very high. It is one-on-one though, so your skill is very much a factor in winning, and you can't rely on your godlike friend named Jimmy over here to pull sick, crazy plays anytime you feel like you're losing the round. Losing is oddly par for the course, and I see many people who love lots of things regarding a fighting game. The characters, the stages, the art style, the music as well, but then drop it because they go 0-30 and never want to touch the game again because the dreams of becoming pro or simply impressing their friends have been shattered in that very moment. Yeah, that was me. I am that person that cried and couldn't handle losing whatsoever, and avoided the online lobby buttons and ranked modes like the plague. Anxiety makes playing a video game designed to be fun all the more terrifying, and I feel like it's something a lot of people experience. Not wanting to accept that they aren't as good as they think. Accepting the fact that losing was just going to happen didn't seem fun. It felt like the exact opposite, but I was trying to genuinely learn and do the cool stuff I would see other players pull seemingly out of nowhere on command. I wanted to be an unstoppable wall and have a decent enough combo game to make people say, hey, you're not that bad this game, or maybe even tell me I'm good. Getting over the mental hurdle was and still is something I have yet to fully jump over, and I don't think anyone ever fully jumps over. It's definitely hard. Changing perspective on losing in a fighting game is almost essential to getting better. FGC members have said to go into matches with a goal in mind other than winning, like hitting a combo or practicing anti-airs. And to sum up a long story, that shit works. I go into games, mostly ranked, and solely go in just trying to learn a B&B or try anti-airing. For some weird reason, losing doesn't feel too bad when I know, hey, I at least got that combo, or I got that anti-air, or I hit that punish, or I actually had solid execution. Having to not think about landing something or where the buttons are and makes the mental load go down as you're able to focus more on the match at hand and be present, rather than cooped up in your notes in your head. The mental game goes much deeper than that, but on my journey to self-improvement in fighting games, those simple tools and methods made me accept the losses, but savor the wins and accomplishments that much more, and not taking away from anything I was doing. Being able to see improvement each day and see the skills transfer over to different fighting games, and building upon a foundation with fundamentals and game knowledge feels amazing. It's why I keep striving to learn more and more. Not caring about the rank you end up and going on your own journey up this large mountain is what is the art of fighting, in my opinion.
Mental, physical, Justin.
Being consistent with either the games you're learning or dabbling with, training drills, or muscle memory, and just playing fighting games in general. The only way to really see improvement is to literally play more, which yes, that does mean losing lots. I went under the false impression that spending all my time in training mode hitting combos that were far from optimal or even possible on the current build of the game and calling myself a lab rat was probably the worst mistake ever. Looking back, I was scared of applying what I can do on a dummy onto a moving dummy. Keeping things simple is something that worked for me, and by the looks of it, many other players as well. Sticking to one combo, one punish, and anti-air option, and a basic game plan are enough to let you play a game feel less taxed on your mental and physical being. On top of that, it keeps you out of your pile of notes you made in your mind and keeps you present and enjoying the game a lot more as a whole. Building that muscle memory of this simple stuff will allow for more experimentation and has made games I've played like MVC3 way more exciting now. Weirdly, this simple process leads you to want to experiment more, wondering, well, what hits into this and what connects into that, and it leads you in this whole process of actually making your own combos off of the combos you were already learning, and having some decent mix-ups and adding in some extra new pressure tools, and it really gets you to connect with whatever character you're learning, and it's such a fun experimental ride. Being able to go ahead and go from doing a basic 5-hit string to adding an extra 6 hits in feels all the more rewarding because you're able to go ahead and figure out the little missing puzzle pieces in the lab, and applying that in-game is all the more satisfying for it. Hell, even recently, playing Skullgirls and finally pulling off combos and set play I wanted to get in a match felt so good after struggling to do it for hours and hours the night before. But thank God for muscle memory existing, because without it, man, this would be harder to do. For my journey to finally feel like I was seeing results took a change in perspective and discipline of not comparing my own journey and progress to others, plus just having fun. Hell, even though I hated using a pad for the first few months, and I could argue me buying an arcade stick, by the way I bought an arcade stick, made me better in some aspects. I think I would have been fine without it though. I like the clicky buttons, okay? So just don't go out feeling like you're needing to buy anything unless you really want to light a fire under you and actually commit to learning a fighting game, or multiple. Because that is another thing. I notice there's a lot of people that will always discredit learning multiple fighting games and say you have to play at the top level. But as someone who's brand new to the whole genre and has taken advice from so many different people, I've always just seen that it's best to drink from the fountain of fighting games. Quote, drinking from the fire hose of fighting game knowledge like this will basically saturate your brain with learning, but it also kind of slows down your pace in each game you're playing, because you're spending less time on each one. I actually think this is a good thing, because you can only absorb so much about a fighting game at once. I couldn't give you actual figures here, but I see plenty of newer players try and download too much information at once on a game or a character, and then end up frustrating they aren't immediately able to apply that knowledge. It takes time for this stuff to sink in, and spending more hours doesn't necessarily make it go faster. But if you shift gears and learn something in a different game, you can give yourself a little more time to let the lessons from game A soak in while you're playing game B. All of this time and my progress has been sticking to 1 to 3 games and playing them consistently throughout the week. If one isn't gelling with me, well, I drop it and move on until I either come back around and give the game another go, or again, just drop it and move on. Skills I learn in Street Fighter 6 transfer over to other games I play, and the skills I learned from Skullgirls could transfer over to Marvel vs. Capcom 3, or even Guilty Gear Strive. It's all interconnected and helped making deciding what to learn much more fun and exciting. Even though I discouraged the idea of only sitting in training mode and not playing the actual game, because it was my biggest mistake, it almost can help in a lot of games if you're trying to learn B&B combos or something like that. But realistically, there is no right way to play a fighting game. If you like only playing friendly matches and recording the craziness that ensues, then go for it. If you love fighting hard bosses like God Rugal or Shin Akuma, do it. If you want to take an hour or two to lab a fun combo you want to add to your game plan, just do it. Make sure that you try it online or an AI first though before you jump into ranked thinking you'll get it every time, of course. I just think it's important to balance out the things you want to do and also try to improve in some sort of way. But realistically, chasing the fun is what makes fighting games more enjoyable and has made learning them a lot more fun in the long run. Deciding I wanted to learn more about fighting games and improve was something that didn't happen overnight, and I am still in the very early stages of my journey and improving each day bit by bit. Relishing the little things is important when playing these games, not comparing yourself to others and instead learning from them. Asking questions and having fun all make the excitement and drive to get better that much more satisfying. You won't truly know if you love fighting games if you don't try, and while there are other videos that have gone way more in depth on this topic than I have, I wanted to more or less archive this chapter and point of view so I can look back on it years later to see the things I improved upon. Much like watching old replays of a match, which are important. Even now while recording this video, I'm like Peppino running into everything, and sometimes you hit a wall. But the fun part in my eyes and many others is finding the way around the wall and being better equipped to bust down any more that stand in your way.
That's gonna do it! Razzo takes it over Zondo and survives in hell, sending one of EU's best out of the tournament. Razzo is ridiculous. Rated R for ridiculous with it.
Finding friends or community members in those games make the learning process way more fun. Between being better mentally equipped, physically prepared, and overall ready to do my best in every fighting game I play, I've learned that fighting games are really fucking hard, but absolutely worth it. These are video games at the end of the day, a tool to have fun, but like with any hobby and skill that has a learning curve, you have to be willing to walk the road to improve and not just give up. Have fun playing fighting games. Don't stress about the little things. The process is a marathon, not a sprint. Remember that. Put the time in and run a few matches.